Something unprecedented is happening in Arkansas right now. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders stood before the Arkansas Farm Bureau Convention last week and said 5 words that should terrify every American. The bottom line is, our farmers are hurting. But that statement doesn't even begin to capture what's actually happening across Arkansas. Because while the governor talks about hurt, entire farming operations are disappearing. While politicians promise help is coming, auction houses can't keep up with the number of farmers selling everything they own. And while state officials reassure the public that agriculture will bounce back, industry insiders are predicting that 1 in 3 Arkansas farms could close by spring. This isn't speculation, this isn't fear-mongering, this is what's happening right now in America's heartland, and the numbers are absolutely staggering. The numbers that changed everything. Let me show you exactly how bad this has gotten. In the first quarter of 2024, there were 45 Chapter 12 farm bankruptcy filings across the United States. These are the bankruptcies specifically designed for family farmers, allowing them to restructure debt and keep farming. In the first quarter of 2025, that number jumped to 88. That's nearly double in just 1 year. But here's what makes Arkansas different. In the 2010s, Arkansas accounted for around 20 to 22% of Chapter 12 bankruptcy filings in the 8th U.S. District Court. By 2021, that number had dropped to just 5%. The state's farmers seemed to be recovering. Then everything reversed. In 2024, Arkansas suddenly accounted for more than 30% of the district's total filings for the entire year. As of mid-2025, Arkansas is sitting at 26.8% of total filings, and that's with 3 more quarters of data still to come. Ryan Loy, an extension economist with the University of Arkansas, put it bluntly during a presentation in July. Financial pressures from 2018 and 2019 are re-emerging, and they're hitting Arkansas harder than almost anywhere else in America. Joel Hargis, a bankruptcy attorney at Cadell Reynolds law firm in Jonesboro, has been practicing law since 2004. He regularly handles Chapter 12 farm bankruptcies. In July, he told reporters he had filed more Chapter 12 bankruptcies in the previous 6 months than in any full year of his entire career. He had 3 more filings to prepare in just the next 2 weeks. His row crop clients across Arkansas, he said, were hurting badly. When the governor finally acknowledged the crisis. Governor Sanders first acknowledged the severity of the situation at a roundtable meeting with Northeast Arkansas farmers in Paragould back in June. "It's no secret that our farmers in the state and across the country are hurting," she told attendees. The meeting focused on addressing farmers' concerns and identifying new opportunities. But farmers at that table weren't looking for opportunities, they were looking for survival. One by one, farmers told the governor how their neighbors and relatives were dropping out of the agriculture industry and scrambling to find jobs elsewhere. They talked about how the price of everything from fuel to seeds was going up, but the prices their row crops fetched in the market weren't keeping up. They described it as a generational crisis. By September, the crisis had escalated to the point where the House Agriculture, Forestry, and Natural Resources Subcommittee held an emergency meeting in Stuttgart, Arkansas. What they heard should have made national headlines. Hunter Byram, an assistant professor of agribusiness at the University of Arkansas, presented data showing that nearly all row crops were losing money. Cotton, corn, rice, soybeans, wheat, everything except peanuts was projected to lose money in 2025. Even with government assistance, farmers across the state could not pay their total expenses. "This is bad news for farm country," Byram told the subcommittee. "We are seeing that farmers are not going to be able to pay their total expenses across the state." Then Kirk Van Sant, Chief Agriculture Lending Officer with Farmers and Merchants Bank, dropped the bombshell that would define the rest of the year. Current estimates show there could be a significant exodus from Arkansas agriculture within the next year. He testified the common numbers were 25 to 40%. Me personally, I think it's 1 out of 3 people if nothing happens. It's that dire. Let that sink in. 1 in 3 Arkansas farms could close within a year. And those other 2/3, Van Sant said, cannot pick up all that land. The infrastructure, the equipment, the knowledge. Once it's gone forever. The human cost. Sidney Robinett is a 5th-generation farmer who spoke at that September subcommittee meeting. His testimony cut through all the statistics and economic projections and got to the human reality of what's happening. Last year, in 2024, there's farmers out there that had the best crop they have ever had, and they lost money on all of it, Robinette said. And I tell you, it's a sorry thing. You're cutting 200 bushel of rice and you're losing money. 200 bushels of corn and you're losing money. What's that do to a person? The stress doesn't end when the workday ends. It gets in bed with you. Sometimes it's better to be awake than it is to sleep at night, because when I'm awake I can think of what's going on today. The bad dreams happen at night. The bad dreams are going out of business. The bad dreams are the uncertainty. Subcommittee co-chair Representative Deanne Vaught, who is herself a farmer, became emotional as she concluded the meeting. I've been saying for several weeks, February next year is way too late for us to forecast what this is going to do for our state, Vaught said through tears. By November, we will have farms that have already made the decision to shut down, and they will never be able to go back into production again. Why this is happening? The financial math is brutally simple. Cotton farmers are losing around $352 per acre. Corn farmers are losing approximately $274 per acre. Rice farmers are losing about $258 per acre. Soybean farmers are losing roughly $85 per acre. Every single crop is underwater. Hunter Byram from the University of Arkansas stated it plainly. Farmers cannot even pay themselves a wage anymore. Best case scenario is breaking even, but most are not even achieving that. University of Arkansas projections show that Arkansas farmers' net income dropped 8% in 2025 alone. Since 2022, crop prices have declined approximately 27%. This isn't a single bad year. This is the third consecutive year of decline. Meanwhile, input costs remain stubbornly high. Fertilizer prices are up, diesel fuel is up, seeds are up, equipment costs are up, interest rates on agricultural loans remain at decade-high levels. The Kansas City Federal Reserve reports that non-real estate farm loans at commercial banks rose 25% from the end of 2023 to 2024. Farmers are borrowing more just to cover basic operating expenses, and they're doing it at higher interest rates than they've seen in years. Scott Stiles, an extension economist at the University of Arkansas, explained that commodity prices have fallen back to 2018-2019 levels, but input costs never came down. Farmers are caught in a vice. Prices for what they sell have collapsed. Prices for what they need to farm remain elevated. There's no way to make the numbers work. Derek Highwood from Independence County explained the reality in simple terms. This time last year, the rice price was about 40% higher than it is now. Input costs have gone up, fertilizer has gone up, commodity prices have gotten worse. After a horrible year last year, where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year is going to be worse. The governor's response. Governor Sanders has made several moves to address the crisis. In November, she announced income tax exemptions for farmers receiving federal assistance through USDA disaster and relief programs. These exemptions were authorized through Act 696, which Sanders signed in 2025. The state estimates this will cost Arkansas approximately $9.9 million in fiscal year 2025 and $15.8 million in fiscal year 2026 in lost tax revenue. There is no denying that Arkansas agricultural producers are enduring one of the most difficult seasons in modern memory, Sanders said in the announcement. That's why my administration is ensuring that recovering farmers don't have to pay a huge tax bill on top of their other hardships. At the Farm Bureau convention in December, Sanders struck a more optimistic tone, despite acknowledging the dire situation. If a country can't feed itself, fuel itself, and fight for itself, it simply cannot survive, she told attendees. As we face down one of the worst farm crises in generations, losing the ability to feed ourselves is simply not an option. Sanders repeatedly mentioned China during her address, emphasizing that she was the first governor in the country to force Chinese entities off Arkansas farmland. She credited Senator John Boozman and the One Big Beautiful Act passed by Congress for including higher reference prices for farmers. She also promised that President Trump loves farmers and something very big is coming from Washington very soon. But here's the problem. That help isn't coming fast enough. The One Big Beautiful Act does provide some assistance for farmers, but that aid isn't set to hit bank accounts until fall of 2026. As Representative Vaught noted, February is too late. By November 2025, farms were already making the decision to shut down permanently. What's actually happening on the ground? While the governor makes speeches and announces tax exemptions, the auction houses are running non-stop. More than 60 farm auctions have happened in Arkansas since December 2024. Every week, sometimes multiple times per week, another farmer walks through the doors not to buy equipment, but to sell everything they own. John Deere dealerships across Arkansas have not sold a single cotton picker in 6 months. These are $700,000 machines that used to move regularly during harvest season. Now they sit on dealer lots collecting dust while farmers auction off the equipment they already own. The Association of Equipment Manufacturers reports that tractor sales are down 13% year over year, and combine sales have collapsed 48%. The downstream impact hits everyone in rural Arkansas. Input suppliers who sell seed and fertilizer watch their customers disappear. Equipment dealers are laying off mechanics and salespeople. Banks that specialize in agricultural lending see their loan portfolios deteriorate. Small towns that depend on farm spending watch their main streets empty out. Kenneth Graves, chairman of the Arkansas Rice Growers Association, has farmed for 50 years. He survived the 1980s farm crisis, but what's happening now is different. "I've never seen this kind of look in farmers' eyes," Graves said in an open letter sent to media and politicians in August. "It's fear, and it's based in undeniable facts." Graves explained that in his geography, farmers need to yield 100 bushel soybeans, 300 bushel rice, and 300 bushel corn just to stay ahead. But basic Arkansas averages are 56 bushel soybeans, 166 bushel rice, and 175 bushel corn. "In a nutshell, we are going over a cliff," Graves wrote. Banks are forecasting farm bankruptcies at 25 to 40%, and the dirty secret is out. Everyone knows it. Everyone feels it. The invisible crisis. Here's something that should terrify you. The bankruptcy numbers everyone is citing are likely understating the real problem. Ryan Lloyd, the University of Arkansas economist tracking bankruptcies, has said publicly that any numbers he reports are likely understating what's actually happening. Why? Because many farmers are exiting agriculture before they even get to the bankruptcy stage. Young farmers especially won't show up in bankruptcy statistics because they're not far enough along in their careers to have significant debt. Instead, they quietly quit farming. They say they cannot do this anymore. They won't risk their land or put up their house. They go get jobs at banks, sell tractors, work in steel, anything besides farming before it gets to bankruptcy. Those farmers are going out, but they will not be reflected in the numbers. The official statistics, as bad as they are actually missing an entire generation of farmers who are simply walking away. The September crisis point. By September, the situation had reached a critical point. U.S. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins spoke at the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture conference in Rogers, Arkansas. Governor Sanders, also speaking at the event, called the situation the worst since the 1980s. Rollins went even further, calling it the worst conditions farmers have faced in almost a century. Rollins confirmed that some form of direct payments to farmers for emergency relief is in the works for presentation to Congress. "We didn't get here in a day, and we're obviously not going to fix it in a day or a month or a couple of months," she said. "But more immediate assistance is needed." Several Arkansas agricultural advocacy groups sent letters to the state delegation requesting a roundtable discussion with lawmakers to talk about economic hardships and request immediate financial assistance. The Agricultural Council of Arkansas wrote that any safety net assistance for farmers under the Farm Bill for the 2025 crop year will not arrive until fall 2026, which is far too late. Farmers need something sooner. The Arkansas Farm Bureau requested an additional round of emergency assistance to bridge the financial gap. Input costs continue to climb, crop prices remain depressed, and farm debt is surging, the Bureau wrote. These factors are steadily eroding the viability of family farms and the broader agricultural economy. October, the legislative response. On October 17th, the Arkansas Legislative Council passed a resolution urging President Trump to implement targeted relief for Arkansas farmers in 2025. The resolution, presented by Representative Dion Vaught and Senator Clark Tucker, is a recommendation rather than policy. But Vaught expressed hope it would help Sanders and Arkansas congressmen make a case for farm aid. Finance and Administration Secretary Jim Hudson told the Legislative Council that he was aware of some liquidation of farming operations and that Governor Sanders has been petitioning the USDA for farm aid. "It's incredibly unfortunate those farmers are hurting," Hudson said. "I think this is a trade issue that needs to get resolved at a national and international level." But Representative Vaught disagreed with the assessment that trade and tariffs were the primary problem. "Prices have been bad for 3 consecutive years. We've had increases in our input and decreases in the amount of money that you're receiving for your products," she said in an interview. December, hope and desperation. At the December Farm Bureau Convention, Governor Sanders tried to strike a balance between acknowledging reality and projecting hope. "Amid all the bad news, I also have a tremendous amount of hope. I know that we have big battles ahead, but if anyone can overcome them, it's the Arkansas farmer." She emphasized that rice farmers hit hard by rising costs were still giving back to feed families in the state. "Even when our ag community is hurting, they're still willing to help their neighbors. I'm proud to lead a state where agriculture is our #1 industry, because I know that that means the people who call Arkansas home will always help take care of one another." But hope doesn't pay the bills. Hope doesn't stop foreclosures. And hope doesn't change the fundamental economic reality that every major crop in Arkansas is losing money. The broader implications. Arkansas accounts for approximately $20 billion in agricultural production annually. Agriculture is the state's largest industry, representing about 8% of Arkansas's gross domestic product. That's the greatest share of GDP across all of the southern United States. When Arkansas agriculture collapses, it doesn't just affect farmers, it affects everyone. The University of Arkansas tracks the bankruptcies, and economists document the decline. From April 2024 to March 2025, Arkansas recorded 15 Chapter 12 farm bankruptcies. That's a return to pre-pandemic levels not seen since 2020 and 2019. And those are just the official filings. The real number of farmers exiting agriculture is certainly higher. Bailey Buffalo, owner of Buffalo Grain Systems in Jonesboro and president of Farm Protection Alliance, describes the situation as horror stories. "The pain is unreal. Worst farming situation I've seen in my life. Look at University of Arkansas extension numbers. Corn growers losing $240 per acre. Soybeans losing $144 per acre, and rice losing $380 per acre. The cotton growers may be worst of all." Buffalo argues that the crisis isn't just about market conditions, it's about consolidation in the agriculture industry. When the top 4 competitors in any sector control more than 40% of the market, abuses become likely, and that sector is approaching a monopolistic risk, Buffalo said. "Right now, farmers, not the giant agriculture manufacturers, are the ones hurting to the point of going belly up." What happens next? As 2025 ends and 2026 begins, the crisis shows no signs of slowing down. The winter months will see dozens more farm operations go under. Spring 2026, when farmers would normally be preparing for planting, will instead see many of them watching their equipment sell to the highest bidder. The Arkansas farming landscape is being fundamentally transformed. Multi-generational family operations that survived the Great Depression, the 1980s farm crisis, multiple droughts and floods are disappearing in afternoon auctions. The equipment being sold shows how bad things have gotten. $700,000 cotton pickers that were financed when cotton prices justified the investment. $300,000 combines purchased when rice was profitable. Tractors that cost more than most people's houses. Grain bins, irrigation systems, trucks, trailers, implements. Entire farming operations built over decades being dispersed in single-day auctions. Governor Sanders has done some things. The tax exemptions help a little. The speeches raise awareness. The petitions to Washington might eventually result in aid. But the fundamental problem remains. 3 years of depressed commodity prices, and it's not getting better. Farming has always been subject to swings in markets and prices, but since the pandemic, things started sliding and there has not been a bounce back. Everything is hitting at once, and there is not any sign of hope in the near future. That's not political commentary. That's reality in Arkansas right now. And while Governor Sanders talks about hope and promises help is coming, the auction houses keep filling up with equipment from farmers who ran out of time. The question isn't whether Arkansas agriculture will survive this crisis. The question is what Arkansas agriculture will look like when this crisis is over, and whether the family farms that have defined the state for generations will still exist at all.